staff on the work that we're doing. And we also, I'll just go through the agenda. Oh, and also I'm Ricardo Nunez, the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives board president. And so I get the benefit of coming up and doing fun things off of the labor of all the Federation staff. So if we could just give a round of applause to the U.S. Federation staff and the DOWI staff. Okay, so today we're going to be going through what I'm doing right now, the President's Welcome. We're going to get a finance report and have a Q&A if you have questions about the Federation's budget and finances. Be louder. Okay. I'm going to eat this mic. Get all loud up in here. Okay. So then we're going to have some staff updates. So we're going to talk about strategy, the Federation strategy that we're going to be implementing, membership, and the programs that we offer. We're also going to be going over the elections. We are in the midst of U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives board elections, which means that you get a vote on the direction of the Federation through our board elections. And then at the end, we're going to have some strategy breakouts. So that's where we're going to get into different groups and go deeper into conversation around different strategic areas for your cooperatives. Finally, just a logistics note about tonight. We are going to have food trucks available here, ice cream, tamales, taco trucks. They're going to be here for the party. You will have to pay for the food there. So that just wanted to clarify about the food for tonight. Yeah. On with the program. Can we hit that next slide? The clicker's not reaching. Thank you. So just as a reminder, the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives is the only national grassroots membership organization for worker cooperatives in the United States. Our mission is to build a thriving cooperative movement of stable, empowering jobs through worker ownership. And we advance worker-owned, managed, and governed workplaces through cooperative education, advocacy, and development. So just as a reminder about who we are as a federation. Daniela, please come here. Okay, awesome. Next slide, please. Boom. Anna Boyer is going to talk through our finances.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Boyer. I am actually not the treasurer, but our treasurer is not here today. I'm the secretary, so I'm going to muddle through our financials. Oh, closer. Okay. We're just going to cover a few key points of our revenue in very high-level detail, but if you guys have questions, we'll pause for those afterward. There either should be on your tables or if somebody's passing these around, a copy of our financial reports that have more detail than this. But this slide that you see up here shows all of the sources of our revenue in 2017. So this is last year. And one of the key things I wanted to note was that our budget increased by about 50% between 2016 and 2017, which is a really big deal. And a lot of that was membership dues. Yeah, awesome, yes. And we're going to talk more about our members and our new members, which we had some growth in our membership, which is awesome. We're going to talk about that more later. But that upper right orange section are our member dues. And about half of our revenue comes from programs that are funded through our sister organization, DAWI, the Democracy at Work Institute. And our staff execute some of those programs when appropriate in areas that serve our members and the cooperative movement at large. And another thing to point out is the upper left, I think it's purple on your papers, it's just going to be gray, is a new area of revenue that we hadn't experienced before. And it's consulting and speaking fees that our staff has done. So our staff has been doing some direct consulting with worker cooperatives and developers, and that's generated a totally new source of revenue for the Federation and kind of keeping that money within the movement, which is really awesome. Who advances the slides?
Gentleman,
oh,
he just walked away.
Okay, what do I do? Sorry, we're gonna, is it this?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay. Okay, oh, awesome, thank you, sorry. So this slide is very, very simple. It shows our new members and our renewing members. And this is based on dues, not the number of members. We'll look at that later. But we had about a 12% growth in membership, which is really exciting. Yeah. All right, so all this stuff is super boring, but if you guys have questions, we're gonna stop there with, glad to hear it. If anybody has questions about our budget or our revenue sources or anything like that, now's the chance to ask them, or you can come find me or a member of staff later. Anybody? Okay. All right, cool. Esteban's next, huh? Are you next? Yeah. All right, and you probably already met Ana Martina, our membership director. Here she is.
Hello, ¿cómo están? Como dicen, ¿cómo es? Panza llena, corazón contento, ojalá. Yeah. So we're going to be talking really quickly about, we were talking a little bit about the membership and the grow and dues, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about where is that actually look like where is the membership of the Federation? So this year, actually, we grow our member classes. So, as you know, we start as a Federation of Worker Cooperatives. So one of our member classes is a worker cooperative. We also include democratic workplaces, which for us, it means those organizations, they are running their business or their organization under democratic structures. We include startups, which are organizations that are starting just to, just starting their business as a worker cooperative. We also have cooperative developers, which are those organizations that are helping to grow and form worker cooperatives. Associates, which are organizations that are supporters or allies of the movement. Federation partners, which is very, very, very important, which it means those organizations that have formed regional networks. They're organizing on the ground, and they're very, very key for us to actually know what is happening in the context, the political context, and the social context. And some of these federation partners, they themselves have also their own memberships. And in this year, we added conversions, since we recognize that not all the business, originate in the same way. And we have seen a way in how traditional business have actually been adopting the model of worker cooperatives. And we understand there is not the same level of support that a startup needs and a cooperative that has been there for a really long time, that a business has been already operating and generating revenue, but now has to be supported to the way of actually being working under the model of worker cooperatives.
You have to ask the dude because it's not reaching.
Okay. So as we're talking also about our membership, we wanted to recognize all of our members. They're here today, and the ones that are not here present, that through their renewals, been helping us to actually make this conference possible and all the work that we are doing together. So this is a list of all of our members that been staying in the membership through the renewals. They're helping us to maintain the work that we're doing. So you can just give a round of applause for all these amazing people that is helping us to do the work that we're doing. So next, as you can see, the list is pretty big, and I just wanted to take a moment to see, right, we have grown our membership now. We got close to 50 new members this year, which is amazing. And, you know, since these are folks that we are welcoming into the membership, and we want to all of you to know who are those members, I'm just going to be reading the names. It's a long, long list, and we are really excited for that. But if you can just like scroll some of those slides. Apple Eco Cleaning. So just so you know, these are businesses that are either new to the membership or rejoined the membership. Apple Eco Clinic, Autonomy Co-op LLC, Beyond Care, Brooklyn Stone and Tile. And if you know them or you are here, you can make some noise, please. Capital Bookkeeping Cooperative, Capital Home Care Cooperative, Carolina Common Enterprise, Co-Risk Labs, Community Food Bank of South Arizona, Corporation Buffalo, Cooperation Development Fund, Cooperative United for Sunset Scholars, Eco Adventure Cooperative, Fly and Bee Farm, Green Worker Cooperatives, Hopwell Care Child Care Cooperative, Island Employee Cooperative, La Colmena, Living Hope Wheelchair Association, Love and Learn Child Care, Mary's Construction, Mountain Bees Works, Nile Spice Company, Northwest Cooperative Development, Oleo Culinary Collective, Other Avenues Food Cooperative, Parallel Disorder Intentional Community, Top Partners LLC, Pilots in Common, Position Development, Real Pickles Cooperative, Reparations Law, Solidarity Research Center, St. Clair Superior 10 Center, Technicians for Sustainability, the Cooperation Group, the Cooperative Commonwealth, Timber Homes Vermont, World Lumbers, Work Foods, Works Printing Cooperative, Community Network Solutions, Community to Community, Mandela Food Cooperative, and Project Equity. All right. So now Esteban is going to talk about the regional organizing, and I'm going to drink some water.
Thanks so much, Anna. So yeah, this is really a big deal. We were just chatting, whispering here with on the stage with the board members about how the milestone of having close to 50 additional cooperative and organizational businesses joining just in 2018 so far is really phenomenal. I mean, we launched the Federation in 2004, 2005 with not even that many members. So it would be like starting a whole other organization. That's significant. So this slide right here actually lists, it's another long list, all of the local chapter affiliates and federation partners. So these are local networks, either cross-sectoral co-op organizing groups or worker co-op specific organizing groups. Most of them are at either a state level or a city level. There might be some like metropolitan area groups, but it's pretty significant. Because you can't read it, you can't see it very well, I'm just gonna read through them real quick, which is the Austin Cooperative Business Association, Baltimore Regional Economic Development, the Boston chapter of the US FWC. They're actually having a meeting, I think, next week to vote on becoming our first on-the-ground chapter, direct chapter of the Federation. Carolina Common Enterprise, Cascadia US FWC chapter for Washington State and Oregon. Cincinnati Union Co-ops Initiative, Cooperation Buffalo, Cooperation Jackson, Cooperative Scenic, which is the Cooperative Economies Alliance of New York City. SIMBA, which is Cooperative Maine Business Alliance. SIMBA, yeah. Cooperation Worcester in the house with a huge delegation all the way from Worcester, Massachusetts. The Greater Dayton Union Co-ops Initiative, which is just about to change their name, I heard. Keep me posted on the rebrand. Green Mountain Workers Alliance, which is in Vermont. Green Worker Co-ops in the house. LA Union Co-ops Initiative. MadWork in Wisconsin, the Network of Bay Area Worker Co-ops, or NOBOS, NICNOC, the New York City Network of Worker Cooperatives, PACA, the Philadelphia Area Co-ops Alliance, the River West Co-op Alliance in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Valley Alliance of Worker Co-ops, also in the house. You can go to the next slide. So that local organizing has been part of our strategy for how we see ourselves growing and scaling the worker co-op sector. We'll talk tomorrow about leveraging that for power, linking up with movements. We talked yesterday about ways we were able to tap into that network to move forward federal legislation that featured worker co-ops for the first time and actually have that pass. And even just having the ground game in the surface area with all of you in all the different places that you work and do your organizing. By having these local groups, as Adriana started sharing some of that work about NOBOS and her involvement there, it means that we can be better in touch with what you need, your technical assistance needs, trends in the industry and in the field, connecting you up with other cooperatives that are going through similar challenges or problems, or that are just in the same industry. So this is part of a larger arc, a 5-year plan that I worked on pretty shortly after being hired by the Federation Board. And that dialed all the way back to 2015, when our founding executive director, Melissa Hoover, who is, of course, the ED at Dowie, was leaving to be full-time focusing on that new organization, which we spun off in 2013. So that was kind of the main strategy in 2015, was managing that leadership transition. And then for 2016, it was really focusing on growing our staff capacity. So at that time, when I was hired, there were just 2 of us. You might remember I had a co-ED, Amy Johnson. And we now have 6 of us on staff. Sometimes we have additional support. So 6, 7 people, it's kind of a big deal. These are amazing folks. And so that was a core part of the strategy, because we needed to have that capacity internally in order to move forward the work and the programs. Okay, so we grew the staff starting in 2016. 2017, we started piloting and experimenting with new programs, which we'll talk about in a moment with some other slides. But it allowed us to really build our ground game, including through local organizing and these networks, beginning to formalize partnerships and sign memorandums of understanding with some of these groups. And then, of course, 2017 was our first time launching a health benefit, which Mo will talk about in a moment. But we saw that as a milestone, as really the part you can't read in that corner talks about creating value and then delivering that value to more of you, right? So doing that through communications, doing that through policy work, doing that through network organizing, right? And now here we are, we're in 2018, we're deepening a lot of those programs and that leadership work. And we were supposed to not count on any significant policy changes until 2019 in our plan, but we already checked that box. There's obviously more work to be done, but how often do you accomplish your goals for your 5-year plan a year and a half early? So this is pretty great stuff to celebrate. Part of how we've been able to do that, and I want to shout out and appreciate not only the Democracy at Work Institute, but also the Working World for being our partners in this organizing. The Working World has been working for a while on launching a financial cooperative. I'm sure a lot of you have learned about it or heard about it in different sessions. And so we have been connecting our work with local affiliates and chapters to the peer loan funds that the Working World's been developing for several years now. And so when you look at the list of where we have local chapters, a lot of that maps on to where the Working World is developing this infrastructure for communities to control and make decisions about lending opportunities for their local solidarity economy and cooperative businesses. So that's on that side. And of course, Dowie is not only our thought partner and collaborator on strategy and fundraising, but also operationally. I don't know if you know this, but we have joint staff meetings very regularly. at least once a month with all of us together. And on a day-to-day basis, we work literally right alongside each other. We share offices in Philadelphia, in New York, in Oakland, working side by side with Democracy at Work Institute. And we would never have been able to scale up without us leaning into each other to do that work. And that was what Melissa was describing this morning. So partnering with them certainly on our racial equity work, training and cooperative development, education, and on research and development, which we won't get to talk about today. But if you're curious, come find me. We've got some really cool stuff happening with R&D. Okay, next slide. So we like to break down our programs into 4 major buckets: connection, amplification and organizing, access to services, and training and technical assistance. We already started sharing a little bit about what this work is, so we're not going to share much in detail, but you go to the next slide. Yeah? But here's a little taste of some of that. And I'm going to say a word about our peer networks and our member councils, and then I'm going to have Ana Martina or any of our board members who wish speak about our work in these groups. I don't know what happened to the racial justice picture. So peer networks, this was a new thing. It was a long part of our vision for a while, and we finally launched these within the last year. So this is a way of pulling together groups who are self-similar in some way and offering a little bit of organizational support. So the 2 that we launched in the last year were the Keystone Co-op peer network. So it's a network of some of the largest or the oldest or some of the most successful worker co-ops all across the country. They might not all be in the same area. They might not all share the same industry, but there are things about being at a similar scale or of a similar age, struggling with things like, how do you engage people who were not founders and who are joining a co-op that's been up and running for 20 or 30 years? So they're able to talk about those things in a peer space that we organize. Similarly, for new worker co-op conversions, through partnering with the Workers to Owners Collaborative, which a lot of you participate in, and I know you had a great strategy session yesterday, we felt like, well, what's the federation component of how we add to that work that's happening? So the businesses get developed, they get coached, the deal happens, they're off and running, and then they find that there isn't necessarily a community for them to plug into. That's where we step in. So to connect those groups to one another, to connect them to our membership and to the federation. And of course, we got to honor last night Meti's construction up in Seattle as a new worker co-op conversion that we are really excited about. So similarly, our membership councils, we have 4 core councils. These are all co-chaired by members like you and members of our board, and with a little bit of staff support. So we have 4 of them. There's the Union Co-ops Council, and I know that Mary Hoyer, yes, just wrote an update and a report about that. So you can see Mary about getting updates about the Union Co-ops Council. We did celebrate their 10-year anniversary. Was that last winter? Pretty amazing. And similarly for the Policy and Advocacy Council, rather than give an update right now, I would direct you to our brand new newsletter that we just released yesterday, which is entirely themed about legislative work that's happened in local communities, at state level, through groups like CELC or ICA, everyone has had their hands involved in this, and certainly the federal work. So newsletter talks about those updates. Who would like to share about our other councils?
Pues el movimiento de inmigrantes en cooperativas, ayer celebramos nuestro primer encuentro en persona. ¿Quién estuvo en el encuentro Tejiendo Raíces Cooperativistas? Who was in the meeting yesterday? So, hemos estado reuniéndonos como parte de cooperativistas que son de la comunidad inmigrante para tratar de crear una visión de inmigrantes en cooperativas, compartiendo un poco las estrategias, el conocimiento y parte de lo que Eulalio estaba compartiendo hoy por la mañana. Y continuamos con el trabajo que estamos haciendo de llamadas cada 3 meses para compartir educación y recursos. Y Ricardo is going to talk a little bit about the Racial Economic Justice Council.
Thank you. So just, we wrote this down, so I'm just gonna read it. So the Federation's Racial and Economic Justice Membership Council sees the worker co-op model as an important tool for dismantling systems of economic and racial oppression. Oh, slow it down. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. This council stands in solidarity with all struggles that uphold collective liberation and cooperation. Our work is dedicated to aligning the worker cooperative community with struggles and movements that build power with and in marginalized communities. So what we do as a council to make that vision a reality is we meet every other month online virtually, and we discuss what's happening locally in our communities and how the worker cooperative community can show up to those spaces and provide them this tool of actually moving towards collective liberation. Another thing that we're doing is we're starting to set up some webinars and trainings, both for members to have a deeper understanding and a political analysis of the work that we're doing and the space that you occupy and that you're part of this broader movement, as well as creating webinars for external partners to tell them about worker cooperatives and using a racial and economic justice lens as the frame for how we present about worker cooperatives as a tool to dismantle those systems of oppression. So we meet once every other month, and if you're a member of the Federation, we appreciate new energy into our council, and we're actually going to be meeting at the beginning of the happy hour tonight to do a little huddle to talk about how, because we don't get to see each other in person, because we're spread across the country, we're going to do a little huddle and talk about the council this evening just for the first 45 minutes of our happy hour. Okay. And one other thing that we're doing with the Racial and Economic Justice Council is we're creating a speakers bureau. So folks from marginalized communities who are part of the worker cooperative movement can actually, when requested, when somebody reaches out and says, we're at a Black Worker Center, can you send somebody to talk about worker cooperatives? We have somebody on a speakers bureau who's from that community and can talk to their community about worker cooperatives. So we're not sending somebody who they cannot relate to. So that's another thing we're doing.
Thanks, yeah. And one last bit that just came together in the last week or two is next month in Atlanta, the Movement for Black Lives, which released a policy platform a couple years ago, which we ended up endorsing through the support of the Racial and Economic Justice Council. They're meeting to refine their goals around economic justice and the solidarity economy. And they invited myself and a few of our, I know Ed Whitfield's gonna be there, folks, to be part of that strategizing. So very directly working with Black Lives Matter around their economic justice policy platform. Cool, all right, some more updates. If you take a peek at the annual report, which we have down back at the membership table that our program manager, Morgan Crawford, is staffing. There's more information about this, but I feel like it bears mentioning. We are finding a lot of different ways to try to really aggregate different components of what I think started out as a very intentionally decentralized, nascent sector for worker co-ops. That includes the fact that we have an Eastern Conference for Workplace Democracy and a Western Worker Cooperative Conference that were their own autonomous projects. Over the last, like 3 years or something, Jessica, we've been talking about this? Over the last several years, we've finally just negotiated a process for bringing those programs together and underneath the umbrella of the Worker Co-op Federation, in order for us to do more coherent planning, strategizing what is the content, how do we actually leverage these programs to build our sector, to build our movement, to offer TA in a way that complements different emerging threads. So when we closed 2017, I think we literally were signing the MOUs on midnight last year. We formalized the process of having the ECWD become a direct project of the Federation. And similarly for the Western Worker Co-op Conference. What that will look like, I think for ECWD, it won't feel like much of a change to you. We're still going to have the Eastern Coordinating Council advising a lot of the content for that program. And in a lot of ways, the ECWD has functioned as a de facto national conference anyway. I mean, we usually have between 250 and 350 participants at that conference. So it's ceased to be regional. And there are even people from California, right, who end up flying to the Eastern region for that event. Not so with the Western Worker Conference. And we did a lot of visioning, and I know that a lot of you who are local to the Western region have had a lot of sessions thinking about this. And here's our vision where we're going, and we're interested in getting your feedback about this, for those of you in the West. We want to turn this into more of a properly regional, a very, very localized program, usually alternating or maybe simultaneous between California gatherings and ones in the Pacific Northwest, and to shrink it a little, to have these day-long conferences. They could focus on more industry-based things. I know in the food co-op pre-conference yesterday, we were talking about having a track or just having intentional gatherings that are focused on the food industry, focused on the restaurant, cafe, and breweries industry, even focusing on home care, and then pulling much more from local talent, because it can be a cheaper event, more accessible financially, to have something that's small, you know, on a Saturday or something, or maybe have a local community event the night before. So that's kind of the vision for where that's going in a nutshell. Happy to answer questions when we get to Q&A in a moment. Anything else I want to say about that? Yeah, next one. Oh, it's time for Mo to share some stuff about our health-related benefits. So please welcome, here we go, with a giant plush toothbrush, our communications director, the multi-talented Mo Manklang.
Hey, everybody! Everybody has all this food in their stomachs, and I feel like the energy is like a little like, oh God, I have all this stuff in my stomach. So I'm gonna lead us in a chant, okay? We're gonna say, clean my teeth, clean my teeth, clean my teeth, clean my teeth, clean my teeth. All right. Love you. So that is what you get to say to dentists now, because in the last 2 years, the Federation has been really, I want to say privileged to be able to offer some new benefits. Who gets vision or dental from the Federation? Yeah, raise your hands. Yeah, give it up for our early enrollees. So, back in 2016, the first time I was ever a part of the Federation team, we hosted a summit to learn like what can we do around healthcare, because it's really hard for all of our businesses. We all know this, and we wanted to figure out how we as a federation can collect our power and use it to provide benefits to the members. So what we did is we came together and we started a dental program that was spearheaded by Liz Anderson, who now works for NASCO, that's floating around here somewhere. So if you see Liz Anderson, give her a high five. And so for the first time in 2017, we offered dental, which is basically we, as the Federation, were able to work with a broker who helped us to get really great rates and coverage for dental care, which has been amazing, I think, for me, especially because some people have been telling me, like, this is the first time I've been able to go to the dentist ever. How amazing and important is that? So we had this really successful first, yeah, clap. That's great. That's amazing. So we had a successful first year in dental. 2018, we added vision because we heard from a lot of you that, hey, I get these things packaged and I need both of them. So we did that. So now we have dental and vision. I could not find a giant plush eyeball. I'm sorry. I tried really hard. So now we have enrolled about 350 people across vision and dental, which is just mind-blowing to be able to provide that kind of service. And we found it's one of the things that is most helpful to our members. So if you do not have vision or dental, or you maybe want to find better rates, and add to our collective power to ensure stable rates for vision and dental, come see me, come to the table. There is information about all of the health-related benefits plans that are that's sitting at the Federation table. We are also looking into, we're piloting connecting members to like full health insurance. We've been doing research because obviously we know like that's the big thing, right? We tried it out with dental to get the structure down. And now that we've done that, we're trying to figure out how to connect businesses with full healthcare insurance. So again, please come talk to me about that. In addition to those benefits, we also have what we call our US FWC member perks, which is provided through a service called Vivana. That gives us the ability to get discount movie tickets, which is hella great because I think I go to the movies now for like $7 in Philly. It's different for different cities, but it's a huge discount if you go to the movies as much as I do. So there's discounts on movie tickets, pet insurance, accident insurance, auto insurance, travel. It's kind of one of those like big umbrella, get discounts on a lot of things service. So I want to make sure that all of our members know that that's available. If you email us at benefits@usworker.coop, we can hook you up with your organizational code. And yeah, feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Yeah, okay. So if you were here yesterday for the Main Street Employer Ownership Act Forum, then you know that this is some time to celebrate. We just passed the first federal level piece of legislation ever to highlight worker cooperatives. Yes! Cheer for that. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again today. That wasn't the people, just the people on this stage or the people on our team. This was all of y'all over the course of time, understanding from all of you what you need as business owners in order to conduct your business. We are always listening to hear what the challenges are so that we can take those to legislators at federal, state, and local levels, and we're always game to help organize on the ground around those initiatives. So come talk to me about that. Come to our Policy and Advocacy Council meetings. We meet on the third Thursdays of every month. That's all on our events calendar. And we're actually going to be hiking the hill again on October 2nd. I'm really pumped about that. So we're going to be just reaching back out to legislators saying, hey, thanks for helping us pass the Main Street Employee Ownership Act, which is going to help boost conversions and outreach about worker cooperatives. And let's keep it going. What else can we do? How can we make financial resources available to people? How can we educate people about worker cooperatives? So all of that is, you know, we work as the staff to make sure that we answer all requests, but all of that is fueled by feedback from all of you. So we need you to keep talking to us. Cool?
Yes.
Cool.
Thanks, Mo. Okay, we just have one more set of things to update about, which is our technical assistance program. And then we're going to talk about elections. So we used to have a program called the Democracy at Work Network, not to be confused with the Democracy at Work Institute, which was set up as a space for worker owners who are embedded in a worker co-op to provide peer technical assistance for pay. It's like a little side hustle to other cooperatives, whether they're startups or expansions or just groups who need a little love and support, you know, developing some of their policies or leadership things. And so we launched this network, which we also supported with a lot of ongoing training and professional development. And over the last 10 years, I mean, we really set out to shift the field. And that happened. We shifted the field. There are now so many groups who do cooperative development, community-based organizations who are supported with co-op developers, and many worker owners who've gone on to start their own businesses, including myself as a worker owner with Aorta. So one of the evolutions then, do you mind going to the next slide? is we are continuing to offer technical assistance and training. La próxima, friends. Yeah. And so we're retiring the Dawn brand. We're expanding our network of technical assistance and training, and including more professionals in that network, people who have been through our training program through Dawn, people who have been through our LCA fundamentals training for Spanish speakers, getting development skills and facilitation and leadership development skills, and nesting all of that underneath a larger umbrella, including for those of us on our staff who provide technical assistance, training, and support, sometimes on a fee-for-service basis. And so we are unveiling our new Co-op Clinic. Thank you, Mo, for the cute design. I think it's cute. So everything from trainings, webinars, our startup webinar that we host on the first Friday of every month, some of our online resources is now going to be housed underneath this program. If you have more questions about it, you can talk to myself or to our new staff person who we hired 1 year ago, maybe to the day, Daniel Aranaga, who is somewhere back there. There he is, jumping up and down. Hi, Daniel. He's based up in Seattle, Washington. Okay, what do we have next? Oh, time for questions. We made it. We have, we've got like 10 minutes or so for questions, and then your questions. And then we're gonna go to elections. Questions for staff or board about our programs, our strategy, membership, growth, anything. We have a second mic that we can run. Yeah. Okay, we're finding another mic that we can run out to you. Questions, comments, hands nice and high, sassy.
If you have questions, just probably like also come to the front.
Okay, Omar and then Pancho and maybe Sassy.
Hey, so congratulations. This is great and wonderful. Thank you for all the work. I have one question just on the last piece on the clinic. So I'm curious if you could just distinguish the role that is going to be played by the Federation and the folks in the clinic from the work that DAWI does?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the idea of the Co-op Clinic, and it's not so much distinguishing between Co-op Clinic and DAWI so much as Co-op Clinic and all the other development and TA that you all do, that people in our ecosystem do. The idea is a lot, even we saw this with Dawn, a lot of the technical assistance we provide is really, tends to be small or surgical. So it's just like an added little piece, like 4 hours to help us draft an operating agreement or write articles of incorporation, or 12 hours to work on a chart of accounts, as opposed to these usually longer arc co-op development, consulting and projects that DAWI gets involved in, that Green Worker Co-op and your academies, that the Working World, that ICA group, that Center for Family Life, all of these different groups, the California Center for Cooperative Development, like all of y'all in the house are doing work that's different. And so what we want to do is fill in whatever gaps there are in that ecosystem, or plug into opportunities where either something about smaller subcontracts or smaller sort of components of a development project would be helpful, or where it's really useful to have a worker owner who has co-op development skills, so as a peer advisor to plug in and help for those things. So we do see it as additive and not competitive with that market. We're generally staying out of the way from that. The one shift might be, or the one distinction might be that the trainings that our staff, Anna Boyer was talking about this when we were going over the finances. We started doing new earned revenue fee-for-service trainings, generally at market rate. On a sliding scale, we slide it down for members and projects that are totally badass and under-resourced and things like that. But we will charge market rate to spend a weekend facilitating somebody's staff retreat, or doing planning or consulting around their workplace practices, conflict resolution, things like that. And so that has been part of actually how we have supplemented our TA program, by paying for the overhead, have people like Daniel on our staff and even paying for growing our staff capacity and increasing our cash flow. So that stuff, maybe some of you are doing that. For us, it looks more like consulting around healthy workplaces, healthy functioning workplaces, and not so much in a narrow sense, cooperative development in a traditional sense. So does that help to answer that a little bit? Yeah, and then we're still partnering on ongoing training and research and development things with Dowie, so that's kind of on a case-by-case basis.
So one question
Next
here
question.
and then Pancho.
Yeah.
I just found out, my name is Marcy. I just found out that an eco-village is a consumer co-op, right? An eco-village is a consumer co-op, and the consumption is affordable housing. Anyway, there are many cities that have a need for permanent affordable housing. Do you guys have expertise on consulting, like making a cookie cutter model, how to convert existing owners to become eco-villages or sustainable communities, sustainable housing communities? Do you have that expertise? Do you have that training?
Right, a lot of that work is done through partnership. So there's a lot of groups in our either co-op development or solidarity economy or community economic development ecosystem and community. I know that NASCO, which is still our fiscal sponsor actually, does a lot of work around housing and affordable housing and some of those models. And then some of the coalitions we're involved with in local places on the ground, places like Eastern Massachusetts and the work that the Center for Economic Democracy is doing. Those of you who know Aaron Tanaka and some of that work, and Boston Ujima Project, our partners in PACA, the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance, and I know that Charlene does a lot of the work you're talking about actually, and she's a board member who just rolled up like an hour ago. She just got to town. So we mostly do that stuff through partnership. Sometimes there's either mixed use development or different kinds of strategies that we will advise either local economic development groups and community development corporations for the worker ownership, workplace democracy component of a larger vision for developing sustainable communities that especially offer economic opportunities for historically marginalized groups. Pancho.
Yes, hi. Thank you for all you do. It's beautiful. And where were you 15 years ago when we were trying to learn about cooperativas in Texas with Colectivo Flatlander? But as you know, I work with immigrants with spinal cord injuries and people with disabilities, and I want to ask if there is a strategy to try to help all our cooperativas to include people with disabilities and with different abilities in our own cooperativas, and to actually promote the creation of cooperativas led and owned by people with disabilities, because as one of our leaders told us in Houston, if we don't have disability justice, we're not going to have justice.
Right. That's an excellent question. Thanks, Pancho. So first of all, it's really helpful to have somebody, a leader like you, directly involved in our leadership. So Pancho is on the board for the Democracy at Work Institute, and is, of course, doing important disability justice work down in Houston, Texas, and nationally with the other work you do. So there are three things. One is, of course, disability and ability and disability and chronic conditions look like myriad things. And so a lot of our members in our workplaces and some of the startups even are addressing that in a way that's appropriate. So some people are differently abled and still work full-time or part-time, or have adaptive workplace technologies that help them to feel good about being connected to a workplace where they have dignity and ownership and are contributing, which is, I think, a little different than how a lot of nonprofit programs might function. So that's one thing, and it sort of depends on what sort of disabilities are we talking about. I would say we started airing this at our the Health Equity Summit that we had in Austin 2 years ago that Mo was just talking about, hearing a little bit about, well, what is that spectrum and what are a lot of the different things that people are doing, particularly around some kinds of chronic disabilities, mental health, and some developmental things. I think there's a lot that's already happening, and we have a great report that I think is still available on our website that you could download. Then, of course, there's the work that the businesses do outside of just our workforce, which especially people in the early childhood education field, the healthcare field, healing and sort of body work, pharmacies, apothecaries, all of that stuff, yoga studios. So we have a lot of people who are in, quote unquote, the like health and wellness field and are influencing that way. The second is through partnership with different groups. So for example, Praxis Project, which we work with closely, the Allied Media Conference, where we participate heavily, that's really moving forward a lot of disability justice work and organizing, that we show up in those spaces and contribute to that, and also humble ourselves in getting important lessons and feedback from disability justice activists, people like Mia Mingus, who are friends and have relationships with us. And then the third is in some ways the most exciting because it's kind of the newest, which is our own process. I didn't talk about this in the R&D, but our own process of learning about social cooperatives. And so social cooperatives are cooperative social enterprises. All right, I'll slow down, chill out. So social co-ops are cooperative social enterprises that involve some or all worker ownership stake. So they could be multi-stakeholder co-ops, or they could be just a worker co-op that happens to be a social enterprise. They often, but not always, have some sort of involvement with nonprofits or the government or an anchor institution. And that is, to me, one of the more inspiring examples. We visited a few, Melissa Hoover and Antu from Dowie and I had a chance to participate through CICOPA in the International Social Co-op School in Naples. And we have visions of organizing a trip next year to get all you guys to be able to go, to have a trip where we go and learn about social co-ops, do a deep dive, rent a bus, and drive up to Emilia-Romagna and visit some of the co-ops there. When we were there last year, we visited a social co-op called Fuori di Zucca, which means out of your gourd or out of your mind. And it was a business where they worked with developmentally disabled people and people who used to be part of mental health facilities. And they created jobs where they're farming, they're doing agricultural work, they're doing value-added stuff with their farming products and selling them in small markets. And then they're also working with really young school children, I think up to kindergarten age. So those are some of the examples of the things that we're doing in that space.
How are we doing in time, Esteban?
We're at time.
We're at time?
Yeah, there's no more time for another question.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about our elections.
We're also just going to say that we're going to be on the table over there. So if people have questions that we're not being able to answer, like the best thing is probably go to the table.
Great. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Daniela and to Pablo. Talk about our elections.
And I think we should probably shake it a little bit because we just ate a lot of food and it's hot over here. So people wanted to just stand up if you're able to, just real quickly, because we're about to go into the subject of elections and democracy that is important. So just like raise your hand and shake it a little bit. There you go. Okay, a little bit of stretching, down and up. And now let's talk about democracy and elections. So we are right now celebrating our regional elections for the board of the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives. The elections opened actually a little bit less than a month ago, and they're going to be closing tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're a member of the Federation, you should have received on an email that I sent your codes to vote. If that wasn't the case, you can find me tonight at 8 p.m. on the table of the federation, and I will be happy to help you to vote. I'm gonna pass the mic to Pablo and Daniela so that they can talk more about who is running for the board.
Thank you, Anna. I just want to get a sense for where folks are coming from. And since this is a regional election, you can just shout out if you identify with this geographic region. Which folks are from the north? Can I hear a shout out? Like, wailing applause? Okay, how many folks here are from the south? How many folks here are from the East Coast? And my West Coast peeps? West Coast! Great. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna call the candidates up on stage. They're gonna do a quick presentation, their name, what co-op they work with or organization, and what city they're located in. Once we do that, we'll get back to explaining how to participate in the election, which you have until tomorrow to do. And we also strongly encourage you to run next year. And so next year, we're going to have at-large seats available. And so we'll be having another annual election. So if you couldn't be nominated, weren't nominated this year, we strongly encourage you to run next year. Okay? So do you want to call off the folks who are coming?
Okay. So from the north region, Jill Dimon.
So Jill, yeah, Dimon? Jill is not here, okay, as I understand. So
Mark Fick.
Can Mark Fick come up? Thanks.
Yay. Thank you.
Is Hillary Johnson here? Hillary from Equal Exchange. Great, thank you.
And Flecker Vera. There.
Anna Boyer.
And from the East Bay, Maria Alexandra Garcia. Yay. And Eulalio Guevara.
Yeah. Tamar Lively. Tamar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Ricardo Nunez.
Thank you.
Soy Eulalio Guevara, vengo de Boston, Massachusetts, y estoy corriendo por la silla del este del país.
Hola, ¿dónde está Nueva York? Presente. Soy María García de la cooperativa Caracol. Me puse mi traje muy serio y voten por mí.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here. My name is Flecker Vera with the Cincinnati Union Co-op Initiative, and I'm come from Cincinnati. And vote for me. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Fick. I'm with Shared Capital Cooperative, and I'm up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
I'm Anna Boyer with C4 Tech and Design in New Orleans, Louisiana.
I'm Hillary Johnson. I'm from Equal Exchange in the Minnesota office in the Twin Cities.
And I'm Ricardo Nunez. I work at the Sustainable Economies Law Center in Oakland, and we're a democratic workplace. So, thank you.
I just want a round of applause for this amazing group of nominees. Thank you so much for running. And so Ana Martinez is just going to give us one last quick reminder on how to vote, and we will pass on to the next section.
So like I was saying before, everybody should have received an email that we sent with your vote. So remember that we have 7 member classes and worker cooperatives. If you're a worker cooperative member of the Federation, Democratic Workplace, Federation Partner, and Cooperative Developer. Those are the 4 voting members, member classes that we have. So if you are in that member class, you should have received your codes to vote. And the elections are online. You can look at your email, and if you haven't, for a reason, received that email, you can find it or went to the spam because Gmail is evil and they do that. You can find me in the table of the Federation. I'm going to be there 8 to 9 tonight, and I can help you to do your voting. And then we'll be closing the elections tomorrow, and then we will be announcing pretty soon after we recover. Second? For the closing? Oh, okay. Okay, then we will be closing then on Tuesday. That's great. So you have a little bit more of time. So once again, just give a round of applause for all these amazing people that are stepping into the leadership of the Federation. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna break into some breakout groups, some member strategy sessions, member-led strategy sessions. Do you mind queuing up the next slide? Because I think it explains, yes. Here's what all these sessions are gonna be on the second floor in the building next door, okay? I believe there's an announcement on the app as well if you need some support remembering this, but I'll announce what they are now and then we'll break and do that. Those groups are meeting till 3 p.m. The first is talking about policy and advocacy, and it's gonna be co-facilitated by Tammy and Sadaf from NICNOC, as well as Mo from our staff. Where are you guys? Maybe they're already up in the room. So you can find them on the second floor in room 206. The next one is on retirement and succession planning in room 210 with Sassy right here in the middle of the room. You can go and talk about retirement. Then there's one on improving job quality, which Project Equity is facilitating. I believe Hillary Abell is right here. Okay, so you are interested in that conversation. That will be on the second floor in room 212. And then the fourth group, which is on member engagement, AKA the subtle art of getting your coworkers to give a fuck about your co-op. That is on the second floor in room 213. I believe Laura Smoot. Oh wait, no, Daniela. And who? Oh, membership committee. Love it. So Pablo and Daniela are going to be facilitating that, room 213. Go forth and do that, and those will run till 3 p.m. Thanks so much for being here for our membership meeting.